All right, buckle up because China just dropped a financial bombshell that's shaking up the whole world, and it's way bigger than anyone saw coming. They didn't just casually roll out some new digital coin to play around with. Oh no. They unleashed a massive $1.2 trillion framework called the Digital Yuan, or ECNY, that's already changing how money flows across borders. This isn't your grandma's banking system. It's a slick, high-tech setup that's quietly cutting the cords on SWIFT, that old-school network the West's been leaning on forever. According to the People's Bank of China, this beast has already settled over 1.8 trillion yuan in transactions. That's about 250 billion bucks, just in the first 3 months of 2025 alone. We're talking deals spanning 200 countries and regions, all humming along without even sniffing a SWIFT wire. And it's got folks buzzing like crazy. This isn't just about moving cash faster, it's a straight-up power move from Beijing. They're not playing catch-up anymore, they're rewriting the rules of the game, building a system that's all about control and freedom from the US-led financial order. Martin Scherzempa, a big brain from the Peterson Institute, told Bloomberg, "This represents the first state-run infrastructure that could compete with the SWIFT IBAN-dominated order, and that's no small potatoes." Back in 1944, the Bretton Woods crew crowned the dollar king of the world. But now, in 2025, China's stepping up with this digital juggernaut, challenging that throne without firing a shot, just using some seriously smart code and a web of deals. They're not loud about it either. It's all sneaky and systematic, slipping into trade corridors and supply chains like they've been planning this for years. Spoiler alert, they have, and it's working like a charm. The US might have thought they had the upper hand, but China's out here, proving they're ready to flip the script. And this is just the opening act of a much bigger show. So while China's dropping that $1.2 trillion digital yuan bomb, they're not just sitting pretty. They're weaving a whole new financial web that's got the US sweating bullets. This isn't some last-minute hustle. They've been at it since 2015, signing over 41 bilateral currency swap deals worth a hefty $580 billion, with countries all over the map. It's like they've been laying down tracks for years, building this sneaky, decentralized network that lets them trade straight in yuan, no dollar middleman needed. By late 2024, a solid 38% of China's trade is skipping SWIFT entirely, running through their own slick setup, called CIPS, the Cross-Border Interbank Payment System. That bad boy's hooked up with over 1,400 banks and financial outfits across 110 countries, and it's humming like a well-oiled machine. Picture this. Massive energy shipments from Saudi Arabia rolling into China, and bam, they're cleared in yuan in literal seconds. No US banks poking their noses in. No SWIFT slowing things down. That's the kind of speed and power we're talking about here. It's like China's built a turbocharged highway, while the rest of us are still stuck in traffic. They've been quietly chipping away at the old dollar-dominated system. And it's not just a tech flex, it's a straight-up sovereignty move. Experts like Eswar Prasad, who used to run the IMF's China gig, are calling it one of the sneakiest financial revolutions ever, and he's not wrong. SWIFT's still king with its 40 million messages a day, but in places like emerging markets, it's losing its grip fast, and China's ready to swoop in with their parallel setup. They're not yelling about it from the rooftops. Either it's all low-key and calculated, like they're setting up the board for a checkmate nobody saw coming. This is China saying, "We don't need your rules." And they're proving it one deal at a time. So, while China's spinning this crazy financial web with their yuan swaps, the rest of the world's starting to ditch the dollar. Like it's yesterday's news, and the digital yuan's popping up everywhere. This isn't some slow fade, it's a full-on shift hitting fast. Take Kenya back in March 2024. They straight up bought oil from the UAE using Chinese yuan. No greenbacks in sight, and President William Ruto was all proud about it. Like, yeah, we did that. Then Argentina jumped in, paying off part of their IMF loan with yuan, because their dollar stash was tapped out. SWIFT's own tracker says yuan's share in global payments spiked to 4.6% by February 2025, up from a measly 1.9% 2 years ago, and that's no accident, folks. This isn't about countries hating on the US, it's pure strategy. Big shots like Eswar Prasad, who used to run China stuff at the IMF, and Carmen Reinhart, a World Bank vet, are saying nations are hedging their bets, dodging US sanctions and dollar shortages like pros. They're not burning dollar bills in the streets. They're just grabbing an insurance policy, and China's handing it out with a smile. The digital yuan's got these cool, programmable tricks. No need for middleman banks, making it a plug-and-play dream for anyone tired of Washington's rules. Late 2023, Hong Kong and the UAE ran a test, clearing trade invoices in seconds with ECNY, slashing costs by up to 98%, according to the Bank for International Settlements. That's not just fast, it's dirt cheap. compared to Swift's clunky 1 to 3 day waits. But here's where it gets dicey. Is this freedom from the US or just a new leash? With Beijing holding the end? Nobody's sure yet. And that's the buzz keeping everyone on edge. More countries are lining up to try it. And every deal's like a little crack in the dollar's armor. China's not forcing anyone, they're just offering a shiny, new toy that works better, and folks are biting. It's wild to think how this started as a quiet pilot. And now it's got the world rethinking who's really in charge of the cash flow. The US might have been the big boss since forever. But China's digital yuan is out here whispering, hey, there's another way, and people are listening hard. Alright, so while countries are jumping on this digital yuan train, let's talk about why it's got everyone buzzing. Because this thing's not just fast, it's a total game changer that's got some folks a little spooked too. China's eCNY isn't messing around. It clears trades in seconds flat, way quicker than Swift's 1 to 3 day slog. That can cost you up to $50 a pop. A report from the Bank for International Settlements says it slashes costs by up to 98%, which is bananas when you think about how much businesses bleed on those old school fees. Their CIPS system, tied into the digital yuan, is pumping out $83 billion in trades every single day. And that's not some cute little experiment anymore. It's the real deal running at industrial strength. Josh Lipsky from the Atlantic Council puts it perfect. China's not just building a faster rail line. They're cutting out the ticket booths. And that's the vibe. They're making money. Move smooth and cheap, no middleman needed. But here's where it gets juicy. ASEAN's now China's top trading buddy, raking in over $975 billion in two-way deals, and more than 33% of that skipping the dollar, entirely leaning hard into non-US currencies like the yuan. Places like Indonesia are rolling out QR code eCNY wallets for small businesses, dodging those annoying dollar conversion delays. While Malaysia's Bank Negara's linking up their payment network straight to China's central bank, a first for the region. Alicia Garcia Herrero from Natixis is sounding the alarm, saying Beijing isn't just exporting goods anymore, it's exporting financial norms. And those norms come with a catch. This whole setup's programmable, trackable, and yeah, it's got folks wondering who's watching the cash flow. When your money's zipping through Chinese platforms, you're not just saving time, you're plugging into their system. And that's got regulators sweating about surveillance and control. Is this a sweet deal for speed? Or are countries handing Beijing the keys to their financial freedom? It's a wild mix of convenience and creepy, and everyone's trying to figure out what it really means down the road. So, while the digital yuan's picking up steam, with its crazy speed and savings, here's the wild twist. The US's own tough guy moves are actually lighting a fire under this whole thing. Back in 2022, when Russia got kicked off SWIFT, China saw their shot and ran with it, boosting their CIPS system by a whopping 90% to handle $83 billion a day by early 2025. That's no small change. It's a straight-up explosion. And it's all tied to countries getting fed up with US sanctions. Places like Brazil, Pakistan, and Saudi Arabia got squeezed hard for dollars in 2023, so China swooped in with expanded yuan swap lines, offering a lifeline when the greenbacks dried up. By Q1 2025, cross-border pilot deals hit 1.8 trillion yuan. That's 250 billion bucks, according to Bloomberg, and it's growing fast. Eswar Prasad, who used to call shots at the IMF, nails it, saying, the more the US turns the dollar into a compliance weapon, the more attractive Beijing's rails become. It's like every time the US flexes those sanction muscles, they're handing China a megaphone to yell, hey, we've got your back. Even buddies like Indonesia and the UAE are testing UN settlements for oil and crops, ditching the dollar for something smoother and less bossy. This isn't about ideology, it's survival. Countries aren't mad at the US. They're just tired of the leash. The sanctions were supposed to lock folks out, but instead, they're pushing everyone right into China's open arms. Think about it. The US built this big, bad dollar fortress to keep everyone in line. But now it's backfiring big time, sparking a whole new vibe where nations are like, nah, we're good, we'll roll with Beijing. It's wild how fast this flipped, and China's not even breaking a sweat, just letting America's own moves do the heavy lifting for them. So, while the US is accidentally hyping up China's digital yuan with those sanctions, Beijing's taking it to the next level with their Belt and Road hustle. And it's a whole vibe shift you can't ignore. They've dumped over $1.1 trillion into infrastructure across 148 countries, building railways, ports, and all that jazz. But here's the real kicker. They're tying it all together with the eCNY like it's the glue holding this massive network. Places like Pakistan's Gwadar port, Kenya's Mombasa terminal, and Laos's high-speed rail? Contractors. They are getting paid in digital yuan through slick digital wallets. Backed by the People's Bank of China, no dollar detours needed. Bloomberg's saying at least 13 Belt and Road countries are testing Yuan-based payments, and some are even using smart contracts to handle sovereign debt, locking in deals with a tap. Alicia Garcia Herrero from Natixis is calling it programmable alignment. And she's not messing around. It's like China's not just lending cash. They're setting up a system where they can track every penny, control how it's spent, and maybe even yank it back if they feel like it. This isn't your average loan gig. It's got folks whispering about digital colonization, where infrastructure's just the bait and the real hooks in the financial strings. Then there's the BRICS crew, now beefed up with Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and the UAE, turning into this sneaky currency lab. At the 2024 Johannesburg Summit, they kicked off a prototype payment system using national digital currencies, with China's eCNY leading the charge. The Atlantic Council's 2025 CBDC tracker says 4 BRICS banks are running these. Cross-border pilots and SWIFT's own numbers show Yuan's overtaking the euro in some South-South trades. It's not about torching the dollar. It's about slicing up the pie differently. And China's out here with the biggest knife, carving a new financial world order one deal at a time. So while China's weaving this Belt and Road cash web, Trump's over here, tossing fuel on the fire, and it's pushing Beijing to crank their digital yuan game into overdrive. In January 2025, he rolls out a monster 60% tariff on all Chinese imports, double the heat from his first term, thinking it's gonna slam the brakes on China's rise. But instead of buckling, China's like, nah, watch this, and speeds up their eCNY takeover like it's no big deal. According to a Q1 2025 report from the China Securities Journal, digital yuan use in trade settlements shot up 19.3% year over year. And state banks are handing out eCNY trade credits with sweeter interest rates than dollar loans, making it a no-brainer for exporters. Hong Kong's Bank of China International's jumping in too, offering yuan-based letters of credit for Asian shipments that are 40 basis points, cheaper than dollar deals, per the South China Morning Post. Mark Sobel, a former U.S. Treasury bigwig, told the Wall Street Journal, tariffs may hit exports, but they're also pushing China to speed up a monetary firewall against U.S. leverage, and he's spot on. Trump's swinging hard, trying to choke China's trade, but it's like he's accidentally handing them a megaphone to shout, "We don't need you." Every tariff hike's just making their yuan system look shinier, a slick shield against Washington's punches. They're not playing the old tit-for-tat tariff game. They're building a whole new financial playground where the U.S. can't touch them. It's wild to think this started as Trump's power move, but now it's backfiring, speeding up the very thing he's trying to stop. China's state banks are out here, flexing, exporters are grinning, and the eCNY's popping off. Like never before, turning a trade slap into a full-on financial flex. The US might have thought they had the upper hand, but China's laughing all the way to their digital bank. So, while Trump's tariffs are accidentally turbocharging China's digital yuan, the bigger picture's coming into focus, and it's a wild ride into a future where Beijing might just call the shots. This eCNY isn't here to kick the dollar out the door. Nah, it's sneakier than that. It's about rewriting the whole financial playbook in real time. Josh Lipsky from the Atlantic Council nails it, saying the dollar isn't vanishing, but its role as the world's gatekeeper is being reprogrammed, and that's the vibe. China's not burning bridges. They're building new highways nobody saw coming. They're laying down these slick, programmable rails through Belt and Road deals, regional trade pacts, even digital wallets, popping up in places you'd never expect. And it's all humming along like a well-oiled machine. But here's the spooky part. This isn't just about fast cash. It's got surveillance baked right in, where every move's tracked, every dime's controlled by Beijing's algorithms. Imagine a world where money only flows if China says go. That's the power play here. And it's got folks like Lipsky buzzing about who's really in charge when the next crisis hits. Picture this. A global meltdown rolls in, and the US can't pump out liquidity like it used to. But China's standing there with their eCNY lifeline, ready to step up. Will countries say, thanks Beijing, and take the deal? That's the million-dollar question. Or I guess the trillion yuan one. They're not just prepping for a rainy day. They're setting up to own the storm, weaving control into every trade, every payment, every little wallet app. It's wild to think the dollar's been king forever. But China's out here coding a new reality, one where they don't just play the game. They run the table, and the US might be left wondering how they lost the reins so fast.